But instead, what we are seeing, I think, is the realization that the markets are more powerful than any central bank. And the fact that we see massive dumping of the long end of the curve on the 10-year and the 30-year Treasury, where the rates just aren't high enough to attract anybody. And so what you are seeing as those bonds are sold off, rates rise higher on the back end of the curve instead of the Fed lowering the front end. This is very, very bad. You have rising front end and a rising back end. You have a bond market that is losing credibility.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for October 23rd through October 30th, 2023, while supplies last. This week we feature 3 different specials. 1 10th-ounce Gold Philharmonics at $30 over melt with a minimum order of 5. Half-ounce silver polar bears at $2.75 over melt with a minimum order of 100. And 1-ounce platinum maples at $80 over spot. The Austrian Philharmonic is the most popular bullion coin in Europe, and the gold 1 10th-ounce Philharmonic offers additional flexibility along with investor trust. With your order of 5 or more, you pay only $30 over melt. Next, the Royal Canadian Mint is one of the most trusted mints in the world, and the half-ounce polar bear is one of their most popular Call of the Wild coins. 1/2 ounce of 4/9 fine silver, it's available at just $2.75 over melt per coin with a minimum order of 100. Also from the Royal Canadian Mint, we have the 1-ounce platinum maple at just $80 over spot. Many consider platinum to be a highly undervalued metal at the moment, since over the last 30 years, platinum has generally been significantly more expensive than gold, but currently sits at less than half the spot price. Best of all, the 1-ounce platinum maple is just $80 over spot, giving you access to a premier coin in a premier metal at one of the lowest prices in 20 years. All of our specials this week are IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're here for our weekly market update with Miles Franklin Precious Metals CEO Andy Schectman. It is Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Andy, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Great to see you, Dunnigan. Thanks for having me, buddy.
There's been so much going on, both regarding the markets, metals, the debt, and geopolitically around the world, not the least of which is this huge conflict that's erupted in the Middle East. And we wanted to personally send out prayers and condolences to anyone who's been impacted by this. I guess we've all been impacted by it, some directly and most of us through people we know or people we care about, and just sending prayers for peace and wanting to extend that to through all of our viewers, our subscribers, and to all those worldwide. And in the face of all of that, there's growing concern. We've seen, for example, Mike Adams on Brighteon, founder of Brighteon, interviewing experts on whether we are on the knife's edge of a potential escalation into World War III. We've certainly got multiple major conflicts going on in different theaters of the world, and it's bound to affect things like the oil price and inflation and everything else, in addition to all of the direct human impacts. So I wanted to just basically turn you loose on giving us your biggest points that you're looking at, both financially and geopolitically, and with the availability of materials in the supply chain, et cetera. So you can start where you'd like, and I'll interject as needed, but just if you can give us a weekly market update.
Yeah, sure. I spoke with Rafi Farber this morning by text, and he's in northern Israel, and he said it was calm, but he suspects things are beginning to change, and it was very eerie, and my prayers go out as well to Rafi, his family, and everyone in harm's way. Certainly, it's a scary thing. Look, I think that there are so many. We've talked a lot about in all of our conversations together. One of the things that we've talked about quite often is the acceleration of events around us. And I think that's very important to acknowledge that it used to be just a drip and a drab, and now it seems everywhere we look, leaks are springing. And as it relates to geopolitical tensions, the Federal Reserve came out on Friday and said that the escalation of these tensions pose a threat to the global financial system amid higher risks of inflation and slower growth. Well, that's going to happen. You're going to see oil prices rise. You're going to see higher inflation as a result of it. You'll see the central banks do what they can to stem inflation by raising rates more, which hurts the economy more, which hurts the banks more. They are in a doom loop. And the higher the rates go, 5% on the 10-year Treasury for the first time in 16 years, the higher the rates go, the greater the strain on the system. They also said that the potential for broad adverse spillover, they use these very grandiose adjectives to explain their positions. You have to read them 2 or 3 times. Broad adverse spillovers for the global markets in the event that the Middle East conflict and the war in the Ukraine intensify or stresses emerge elsewhere. Well, in other words, they're saying there's going to be problems, spillover. There will be systemic problems. And Powell himself said that the geopolitical tensions pose important risks to the global economic activity and carry highly uncertain implications, and warned of increased volatility and the likelihood of a significant economic slowdown as credit dries up. This is, you hear a lot of people talking about the money supply drying up, and it is. You're seeing M2 drop at a level that we've never seen before. We're seeing the repo market being drained of its liquidity as all of this money is in search of yield, most of it going directly to the Treasury. Places like treasurydirect.gov, we see tons of money leaving, the regional banks going into the money markets, and much of the money that it was in the reverse repo market, a lot of it being the money market funds, are now leaving the repo market facility altogether and going right to the Treasury, which that repo market facility is the lifeblood of many corporations who need liquidity. And it's drying up like we saw in 2019. And so we are going to experience, I believe, great stresses in the system. And, they talk about this uninversion of the yield curve, usually being the time when the recession shows itself. We've seen a greatly inverted yield curve for a very long time, which means that you get paid a higher rate on short-term treasuries than on long-term treasuries. That's inverse of how it's supposed to work. Well, the idea behind that is that, the traders don't like what they see out in the future, and they believe the Fed will have to shrink interest rates down in the future to accommodate for bad economic conditions. So that's normally the case, where the Fed comes in and lowers short-term rates in order to uninvert the curve. But instead, what we are seeing, I think, is the realization that the markets are more powerful than any central bank. And the fact that we see massive dumping of the long end of the curve on the 10-year and the 30-year Treasury, where the rates just aren't high enough to attract anybody. And so what you are seeing as those bonds are sold off, rates rise higher on the back end of the curve instead of the Fed lowering the front end. This is very, very bad. You have rising front end and a rising back end. You have a bond market that is losing credibility. You have a bond market and an economy that is losing liquidity. It's not as deep as it once was thought to be. And so I think when we talk about what could happen, I think we're going to see a lot of problems as it pertains to rates, to the banking system, to the economy. And the spillover, as Powell wants to call it, I think is something that is not to be taken very lightly. Quite to the contrary. I think we'll see rates much, much, much higher. And I think it's just beginning.
I just wanted to interrupt there just to corroborate what you're saying, and the fact that our viewers and our subscribers have been listening to you warn of this for quarter after quarter after quarter, as all of these deteriorating realities in the financial system, the banking system, et cetera. We've been hearing that also from Gregor Manarino. We've been hearing it from Lynn Alden. We've been hearing it from others. And finally, and this is the other thing, is we get told by our friends and our colleagues in the independent media, is that eventually the official mouthpieces of the empire will come out and give some excuse. They'll point to some event that occurred and say, that's the reason. The dog ate my homework. It's like, no, you didn't do your homework, and you didn't fess up about it. Now you're blaming it on the dog. No. So this latest conflagration in the Middle East is going to be blamed for all the systemic, the wheels falling off for years now. Alistair McLeod's been warning us about it. On and on. Our guests who have insight into how banking actually works, or how debt financing actually works. Sorry, I'm a bit irritated by this, because it's as Brad Harris, and I quote him often, saying the official warning will always come too late. So our viewers and our subscribers have been clued in because of you, because of some of our other honored guests, and yet they've been the black sheep in their family this whole time. And now you're going to have the official people coming out and saying, oh, it's actually this other reason. It had nothing to do with the fact that the wheels were falling off for a long time.
Right, and they're looking for a villain, and they point to a villain, and it's the rallying cry, much like 9/11 was a rallying cry, but it comes after a massive event. What is that event? Is it when the dollar is universally dumped, by OPEC and Saudi Arabia, as I've been warning for years, and the ramifications of that happening, spiked interest rates, collapsed market, collapsed banking system? It was them. They did it to us, those villains. How could they do this to us? That's what they're doing. And I knew that the minute that they said it was Putin's inflation. It is never someone's inflation. It is an increase in the money supply, period. Inflation is an increase in the money supply. It is always a monetary event. Yes, distortions happen in prices through distorting the supply chain through war and whatnot, but that is not the cause of inflation. Inflation is an increase in the money supply. Let's talk about some of the things happening in BRICS. Again, little by little, we keep seeing. We recently see Russia and Sudan have recently agreed to build a joint naval base in order to establish a Russian presence near the Suez Canal. Well, I mean, look, you have Egypt and Iran, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, all these countries in that area, all part of the BRICS now. And now you're beginning to see military presence, along with the BRICS naval alliance that was designed to patrol the Indian Ocean. These are trends that are growing little by little by little. You have the head of South Africa, the president Ramaphosa, said the future for critical minerals in Africa is very bright. The era of giving away our raw materials is over. And they seek to ensure that the lion's share of the wealth created by turning our raw materials into high-value products stays on the continent. You are going to see very likely a nationalization of assets, of mines, of minerals, of the rights that the West has traditionally come in and done this in a coercive manner. You are beginning to see countries like China go in and industrialize places like Africa and South America in a cooperative manner to help bring these to the marketplace, and not at the sole benefit of the West, but a cooperative benefit of both parties. We see Malaysia actively exploring the gold dinar as a potential new reserve currency for Malaysia. The prime minister of Malaysia just came out a few days ago and said, if we can get between only 5 and 6% with Islamic countries using the dinar, it would be a positive start, as it provides strength and reduces the dependency on the U.S. dollar little by little by little by little by little. This is what we are seeing. We're seeing all of these countries strike deals in their local currencies. They were all tasked, their finance ministers, going back to the drawing board, coming back in 24 with ideas on a common settlement currency. It will come. We talked a lot about Brazil and China doing this deal in corn a few months ago, where Brazil is the second largest exporter of corn in the world, signed a deal with China to sell them whatever they sell them, they'll accept payment in yuan, and China would accept payment in real. And now it's gone past corn. The export sales of U.S. soybeans have decreased by over 40% compared to the same period last year, because the largest importer, which is China, has turned to Brazil and are buying Brazilian soybeans instead of U.S. soybeans, little by little by little by little. China came out, there was a report in Reuters last week, actually 2 days ago, October 22nd, wants to deepen oil and gas cooperation with Gulf countries and seek potential for cooperation in the new energy vehicle industry, such as power batteries and smart charging piles. So, look, all of the rare earth minerals, most of them are found in the Eurasian continent. President Widodo of Indonesia, who's an OPEC country, said, yeah, we need to create an OPEC-style cartel for rare earth metals as well. Not thinking this out very well. You're seeing de-dollarization little by little by little. The Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange just the other day settled its first cross-border transaction in digital yuan. So they've done several transactions for oil settlement and natural gas settlement domestically, but this is the first one they did overseas. Now, they didn't tell us who the counterparty was, but that counterparty accepted digital yuan. It's the first cross-party deal they have ever done, which is interesting. And while we're talking about China, before we go on or I answer any questions that you have up until this point, a very interesting thing is happening. We've talked a little bit about how gold is priced over $100 higher in China. And I don't care what the conventional answers are by the talking heads. I believe they're doing it for a reason. They want to see at $100, how much gold can they siphon off from the West? How about 200? How about 300? Keep raising the price of gold and silver higher and higher and higher and watch the arbitrage that takes place. I do believe that you will see either Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, or Shanghai Gold Exchange in China take over for the COMEX and the LBMA at some point as they continue to lose legitimacy. And that's going to happen. Now, it's interesting. The three biggest Chinese banks that have been involved in setting and participating in the LBMA gold price auctions, the ICBC, the Bank of Communications, and the Bank of China, have all disappeared. They've just disappeared from the price setting of the LBMA, and without any real acknowledgement of anyone talking about it, or where did they go? Why did they just stop? I wonder, did they realize that the West is rigging the price and they just want to be out of it? And they can point to that. And that's why they're slowly raising the price in China. Just food for thought. I'll stop there for a moment. I have more to talk about, but to see if you have anything you'd like to comment at this point.
Well, I think it's of key interest to our viewers and subscribers, this phenomenon of a separation in price, spot price, between the Western exchanges versus the Eastern exchanges, because for years there have been, for decades, we've had Bill Murphy from GATA.org, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, and others on claiming and documenting examples of price fixing on the Western exchanges, and amidst basically a blind eye being turned towards that by the regulators who've refused to regulate, even though GATA has submitted copious, detailed examples of documentation of illegal behavior they claim by the part of concentrated market participants on the West. And it's been distressing to holders of precious metals in the Western countries who have the attitude that they're looking for higher prices to make an investment gain or something like that. You've lobbied for years now that people change their mindset around what precious metals are and the function that they play as actual stores of wealth, not just investment things to flip for a nominal gain. But there's a keen interest now on the parts of people who've been watching this and wondering when will there be truth and justice in our Western markets? And it looks like there's a new sheriff in town, in the sense that there's competition in what would have been a monopolistic control mechanism that's been in place in the West, both in London and New York. Any comments you have about what bringing global competition to this precious metals marketplace as the head of a precious metals company means to us?
Well, if there was a group of people that intended to get as much as they could at subsidized prices, first of all, they wouldn't complain about it. And second of all, they would use it to their advantage. And they would join in on the suppression. And they would also short the futures price. And they would drain all the liquidity or the metals from all of the markets around the globe, which they have been doing. And they're not going to complain about it until it changes, until there is no metal left to be sold at these make-believe artificial prices. And then they will then take over the real price setting mechanism, that the exchanges will be viewed for what they truly are, a fractionalized scam. I mean, you look at right now, the silver market as an example, the registered category on COMEX is now 1,666% rehypothecated. The vaulted silver in registered, the number of contracts in the registered category is 1,666% higher than there are bars backing it. Basically 1 out of 17. And, this is a situation that has enabled the U.S. and the Western interests to suppress metals, to support forever a bond market, to support a currency system, a whole financial system where gold and silver rising would signal frailty in the system, inefficiencies in the system. So they step on the mouse, or on the canary rather, and that's exactly what they've done. But what they never counted on would be these other entities who were standing by ready to take delivery at subsidized prices. And that fits right into the hand. If you are trying to buy it all up, the last thing you're going to do is let it move up too quickly. And if, as the Chinese do, look at this as wealth, as they have for centuries, then this is exactly the playbook you would follow. And if you buy it trying to get wealthy with, where immediate gratification is not fast enough, then you say when. If you have a broader perspective picture, a big picture of how important this is to own it and not to buy it to get wealthy, but because it is wealth, you don't really want to see, gold and silver going to the moon. If it do, what does that portray for a McDonald's hamburger or a bottle of water or anything in this country for that matter? What do the grocery stores look like? What are the shopping malls, if they're still there? What do they look like? And so I think that's a situation that's coming. And you can sense it. You can feel it. They're the ones buying it all, producing it all. They're raising the price. They're importing it all. It's not a good thing. And they're using it to their advantage until there's no longer any metal left to siphon. And you look at a company like Bank of America, who has, according to Ted Butler, 82 billion short in gold and silver. 32 billion, 23 billion he believes is short in silver. That's a billion ounces, basically, short silver on COMEX. Well, why the hell would they be doing that? Why would they be short, in essence, thousands and thousands of ounces of gold? Why? Are they trying to hold it back for some reason? And yet it continues to go higher slowly, even in the face of rising real interest rates, because there is such central bank demand, big money demand. I don't care about what's happening in the retail sector. Big money, even in the face of rising interest rates. And suppression is keeping the gold and silver price elevated. I think you will see it go higher than anyone thinks possible once the suppression is over. And I quite frankly think that Bank of America may have finally realized the potential precarious position they've put themselves in. They just came out their third quarter balance sheet and talk about 131 billion in unrealized losses. 131 billion in unrealized losses. And if you want to sacrifice a commercial bank, that would be the one. And they hold this massive short position in gold and silver. Why? At a period of time when it's completely counterintuitive. Why? You cannot continue to suppress the markets in that fashion, in a naked fashion, especially when the rest of the world is on a campaign to accumulate it. I think it's very dangerous and could very well spell doom for a company like Bank of America. A couple other things to mention. Talk about the what's going on with the real estate market. For the first time ever, it appears that you have to have $114,000 in annual income to afford a house. That's up 90% in 3 years. 2020, that number was 60,000. Now you have to have 90,000 as mortgage rates have gone from 2.6% to 8% in 3 years, as house prices have also gone up north of 30%. This is a situation that is getting more and more difficult for the average consumer. You look at what's going on in cities like San Francisco. They were just ordered to somehow get rid of $206 million off the balance sheet. And the cuts that they chose, $27.6 million in law enforcement, $10.5 in fire department, $15.5 million in municipal transportation, and $26 million in health department. I mean, look at these countries. They're being eviscerated from the inside out. We're giving away all our money around the world instead of fixing our inner cities, instead of fixing our infrastructure, instead of protecting our borders. Everything we're doing is wrong. And then you look at, what's going on with the bond market. To me, it is a bigger symptom of the world's seeing what we're all about right now and losing faith and trust. We've talked a lot about this, losing confidence in the fact that we always were the best and the brightest and the best and the brightest markets and the most liquid. Well, at some point, you don't care anymore. You continue to spend money you don't have. You continue to enact policies that are completely dividing your country. And every other time this country has ever stood up with its back to the wall, we were united, and we are not anymore. And I'm very concerned of what is coming down the pike. And if you listen closely to what Jerome Powell is saying, increased volatility, increased market problems, he's foreshadowing it. And I think you're going to see big problems. And I think they will stem from a banking crisis. It will spill over into the commercial real estate problem. It will spill over into a massive dumping of treasuries around the globe. This is a problem that's not going away. And I think it's only getting worse by the day. The de-dollarization is getting worse by the day. And now you have him come out and say, by the way, the Fed said, life insurance companies continue to face liquidity risk as a result of heavy reliance on non-traditional liabilities in combination with an increasing share of illiquid and risky assets on their balance sheets. Oh, now we got to worry about the insurance companies. Well, that was obvious. I mean, where do they put their money? Into treasuries and into securities. What did China do in the month of August? Dump more treasuries and securities than any time in the last 4 years. They're dumping. All of this around the world, it's dumping. And the banks and the insurance companies who have all their assets in these investments that are going upside down, there's going to be a problem. And once that first problem happens and a bank is bailed in or a big insurance company collapses or whatever it is, I think we begin to see things accelerate much, much faster than the fast acceleration we've seen in supposedly calm times over the last couple of years.
Yeah, not to put too sharp a point on it, but the non-traditional liabilities that insurance companies are seeing, we certainly have the number one cause of death all around the world for the past 18 months has been cause unknown. So I know we can't expand on that, but just recognizing that a lot of things haven't been fessed up to by those in leadership positions, and the effects that they're having on ordinary people have been felt severely. Andy, for those who want to do what the best funded are doing and acquire real assets that are not subject to the same risks that exist by keeping inside the dollar, inside the banks, inside the brokerage system, inside the stock market, inside the real estate market, inside the bond market, the bubble of everything. Those who want to opt out, you often are able to come up with a weekly special to help make that more affordable. Is there anything available this week?
I have 3. And I promise this is the last time I'm going to say one last thing, because I know I do that to you all the time. But one last thing about, you said the stock market. Do you realize they call this the Magnificent Seven? That Apple, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, and NVIDIA accounted for 98% of the stock gains this year. 98%. And NVIDIA, which is the lone bright spot, you could argue, in the American economy, is a company based in Taiwan. So our economy, we are not in every way from being ununited, divided, to precarious positions in all of the markets that you just mentioned, including the banks. We're not in a position to weather what is coming. And so, yes, with that in mind, we have 3 specials this week. Try to bring this. And look, in this environment where I do not understand how premiums have not gone parabolic yet, I do not understand how the availability that we have is what it is. I think that will change in any major event, whether it be a bank or an insurance company failure, especially with a bail-in. But hey, until that happens, we'll keep trying to bring everything we can to the market and as many specials as possible. This week we have 1 ounce Canadian Platinum Maple Leafs at $80 over spot. We have 2023 Austrian Philharmonic 1/10 ounce gold coins at $30 over their melt value. Price of gold, divide by 10, add $30. And also, one of the best items, and I own about 5 of these boxes. These boxes come in 240 to a box, little small box, 120 ounces a piece. I love them. Maybe the best silver item for barter I've seen in a long time next to junk silver. And those are the 1/2 ounce silver Canadian polar bears. These are 2018s we bought. We were able to buy a whole bunch of them. They're 4.9 fine. They're as pure as any coin in the world. And they're 1/2 ounce. They're $2.75 per coin over melt value. So take the price of silver, divide by 2, add $2.75. They are 1/2 ounce, 240 to a box, minimum of 100 coins on this order because of the way that they are packaged and whatnot. But I think it's a really good way to get some silver with great utility in it at a premium that we haven't seen on anything small like this in a long, long time. So that's what we got in this world that just keeps on chugging along, changing by the day, and getting a little bit more concerning and frightening by the day, too. So that's all I got for you.
Well, thank you, Andy, for that. And thanks for always for giving us this broad and deep perspective of what's going on. You give us kind of the look over time. You give us the international look, and you give us the look behind the smokescreen that unfortunately people are clouded. Their visions are clouded. And as we've spoken before, when they talk to their financial advisors, I just had another client this week talk to me about your financial advisor says she's crazy for wanting to consider storing her wealth outside the system. And that's for 40 years, that's worked. But it's the regime. We are in a new regime. We're in a new changed environment, and you have to be cognizant of that situational awareness again from the preparedness perspective. And we're grateful for that. And once again, together, our thoughts and prayers go out to all those around the world for peace in the world as things move forward. That we remember we're all God's children. We're all brothers and sisters of each other, and we need to hold on to that. And that the vast majority of people are good at heart, and want only the best for each other, want freedom. We all want freedom. Your thoughts?
I couldn't say it better myself. It makes me very sad to see what's happening. And, war is awful, and so is just the division that we're seeing around the world. And you're right. You said it better than I can, and I will echo your sentiments and say a prayer for you as well, and for our good friend and who's on your show frequently, Rafi, who's right in the middle of it. And so I'd like to say a prayer for him and his family as well. And let's just hope calmer heads prevail.
Thank you, Andy, for joining us on Liberty and Finance for this weekly market update. Sure appreciate it.
Stay well, buddy. Thanks.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we can let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Kaiser, my brother Elijah, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.